After Alien vs. Predator received very mixed reviews for being PG-13, Fox decided to amp up the brutality with Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, released in 2007. It's time to take a look at Aliens vs. Predator Requiem before Prey releases on Hulu this Friday. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Carter Scotland Allen. This is my film page where I talk anything and everything film related. I love film. If I'm interested, I will talk about it, and I also will share my professional filmmaking journey. Please be sure to like and subscribe for other movie-related content. I've taken a look at the first two solo Predator films, as well as the first film in the short-lived Alien vs. Predator spin-off. Today we are taking a look at the second Alien vs. Predator spin-off with Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which is the fourth on-screen iteration of the Predator itself. Yes, this film is very visually dark, but can it still be fun? Let's find out. Warring alien and predator races descend on a rural Colorado town where unsuspecting residents must band together for any chance of survival. Following in the footsteps of Paul W.S. Anderson, Alien vs. Predator Requiem was directed by Colin and Greg Strauss, otherwise known as the Strauss Brothers. The Strauss Brothers have done plenty of other music videos, but the only other film that they're known for is Skyline, which I believe was released in 2010, and that film was also not very well received. I think the Strauss Brothers were a good choice for the Alien vs. Predator franchise, being up-and-comers, but they were a safe choice for the studio because the studio could basically put blame on them if the film wasn't received very well, which it wasn't very well received due to the visuals. You could hardly see what's going on, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I think they had a good overall idea. They just didn't know what would truly connect with fans of both franchises. Now moving on to the cast and the characters. All of the characters in this film are extremely forgettable and all very one note. I've seen this film like 6 total times now, and I couldn't tell you a single character's name. There's not a single character in this film that's redeemable, and not a single character that I care about. You have to give them credit for trying to give a wide variety of characters, but this variety of characters is all very shallow. Everybody is super shallow. As for the characters, this film is the Predator film with the least memorable characters. Moving on to the story. As for the story, this film again really isn't too terrible. The rough idea is there, but that's unfortunately what we end up getting, is a rough idea. The concept of these individuals in a small town taking on these iconic creatures is intriguing enough, but ultimately does not go anywhere. Now let's move on to the visuals. Now you already know this, but the film looks awful, and that's just due to how dark the film is. You can't see anything. This is easily one of the most difficult Predator films to watch due to the way that it is cut and lit, but I will say it's not as choppy as 2018's The Predator, which again we'll talk about with the rankings and reviews for the whole Predator franchise when Prey releases, but the film just doesn't look right. It's way too dark, you can't follow anything, and it's not a fun watch. Moving on to the score. Okay, there is literally actually nothing I can remember from the score, so we're just going to move on because this was extremely forgettable. I'm just going to assume that it sounded like any other score from any other action horror type film released around 2007 because that's just kind of what happened. And this whole film score, everything very forgettable. Okay, and moving on to the final thoughts. Aliens vs. Predator Requiem is one of the most forgettable films I've ever seen, period. And that is so sad to say considering both of the title creatures are some of the most iconic creatures in film history. You do have to admit that Alien vs. Predator Requiem was a good attempt at fixing things after Alien vs. Predator with the very mixed PG-13 ratings, and yeah, it wasn't right in the first film and it wasn't right in the second film. They just couldn't figure out the right tone and where to go story-wise, even though I don't personally think much is needed. I just think you need a fun battle film, kind of like Freddy vs. Jason, but again, just with Alien and a Predator. This film is forgettable, but I think had the film been lit better, I think audiences wouldn't despise it as much as they do. I don't think it would be as hated as it is if it just had the right lighting. I'm a huge Predator fan, and I'm a huge Alien fan. With that being said though, I would not purchase either of the films in the Alien vs. Predator spin-offs. I genuinely think both of these films really aren't worth a watch unless you're just a diehard fan of both of, or I guess either of the franchises, and then you just so happen to have not seen this film. But most likely, if you're watching this review, you've seen this film, and I'm just going to assume you probably don't really care for it. You might have had some fun with it, but I don't think anybody's favorite Alien or Predator film is Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. Again, I do not own this film. I will not own this film. I think the only way that I could recommend somebody to go out and buy this film would be to obviously be if they were a diehard fan of both franchises. You have already seen it, and you've probably already own it if you love both franchises, and you somehow have some enjoyment with these films, but they're just not for me and not worth picking up. Well, that was my review for Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, and now we have covered the first two films in the solo Predator outings, as well as both films in the Alien vs. Predator spin-off. Next up, I will be reviewing 2010's Predators, followed by 2018's The Predator, before Prey releases on Hulu this Friday, August 5th. Can't wait for that. But thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for future movie-related videos. Again, I do have a Predator comic book giveaway, which is still available and will be available until the morning after Prey releases. So please be sure to go enter into that. I'm Carter Scotland Allen, and I will see you guys in my next movie-related video. Peace.